Did you have a strong mindset since you were little, or did you kind of develop them on the fly as you dealt with these obstacles?
Um, that's a really deep question, Rafa, because I think I had a lot of really big insecurities and vulnerabilities, but I think it was those that forged a good mindset, weirdly. So, like, I believe in having mentors, being in masterminds, learning from people who've been there before. I've got coaches, mentors, billionaires. I've interviewed 1,300 people on my own show. I've got
Hmm.
access to so many great people. I also think it's important to, at times, speak to a therapist. I think, a lot of men think that's weak. I think the opposite.
Hmm.
So, through this entire journey of therapy, personal development, and mentors, when I was young, like in the cot young, I was left alone a lot because my mum and dad were always working in the pub and we would be upstairs.
Hmm.
And then my sister and I would be left alone a lot, and I would look after my sister from probably age 3.
Hmm.
So I have felt in my life a lot of loneliness. And even to this day, I could be very successful in a room full of people, everything could be going good, and I can feel very lonely.
Hmm.
Then my parents sent me to boarding school, and I got really overweight. And so I was the fattest kid in my school for sort of like 3 years.
Hmm.
Boarding, and like, kids don't bully the second fattest kid; they go for the fattest kid, and that
Yep.
was that was me.
Yep.
So I already felt pretty lonely and misunderstood just from
Hmm.
how I was raised. And then on top of that, being the fattest kid, um, I hated school. I felt I was like really badly bullied, even though it probably wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So I built these conflict avoiding, people pleasing behaviors to fit in.
Hmm.
So I was the only kid in school who the rockers liked, the grungers liked, the metalers liked, the geeks liked, the sporty guys liked, all the different groups, because I learned how to adapt, fit in, people please, avoid conflict, avoid you calling me the fat fucker or whatever it is you'd call me.
Yep.
I was friends with all the girls, but none of them wanted to be with me, but I was friends with them. So I felt this loneliness and shame, but I learned really good, like adaptable people skills. But I hated conflict. So I lost all the weight. I got the girls. I got good at sport. I got captain of all the teams. I got straight A's because I was still trying to be loved and noticed, even though the weight had gone. The need to be noticed was just there.
Hmm.
Um, but I still was the conflict avoiding people pleaser who felt really lonely. And maybe at 46 years old, I'm still that guy. I don't know. But it also helped me develop some skills along the way.
Nice. Deep answer. I appreciate you sharing. That's an interesting journey. So you mentioned mentors, you mentioned, masterminds and getting around people of a little bit of a higher level. And I agree with you 100%. I've been in law enforcement for 18 years and built this company now that we are internationally recognized as one of the best companies in the world when it comes to empowering men. And it took a lot of work, but if I wasn't in a room with great men who were ahead of me, and I always say this, if you're the smartest, wisest, richest man in that room, you're in the wrong room, right? Getting around great people that inspire you. So your mentors in your life, where did you find them? Did you find them in these masterminds, in these groups, or were there people that actually took you under their wing?
So my first mentor was my dad because he got me working age 6 in his pub. I
Hmm.
hated school. I
Hmm.
loved working in the pub. And I would beg my dad to let me work whenever I could. And mum would always be like, he's got
Hmm.
to do his schoolwork. And I just wanted to work. And all the way through until age 25, even though I was in debt because I was spending more than I was earning, which is something
Right.
you don't do. But I was really good at work and I loved work. So my first mentor was my dad because he taught me entrepreneurship age 6. I didn't get into entrepreneurship until age 26. It took me a while, but so he was my first mentor. Probably my next mentor was my business partner who I met. because he didn't tell me because they don't when you meet them, but he was already a millionaire and he was already doing well. So I guess I got next to him in this small company and I would just watch and listen to how he would sell on the phone properties. I'd watch how he'd source properties
I love
and I
that.
would just
Yeah.
kind of copy him really. And then
Yeah.
I'd read some books and listen to some CDs back when you had CDs in your car. And I'd do that in the evenings and in the weekends to try and catch up with him.
Right.
So I completely agree with you, Rafa. The thing with, if you're in a room full of people who are ahead of you, you're always trying to catch up and you end up going faster than them
Yes.
because you're catching them up. Same with training, same with anything. So my business partner was my second mentor until I caught him up. And then when I sort of figured, okay, this works, then I would just select them. So there's a UK property billionaire. We got him to mentor us in the early days of property. There's someone in the UK version of Shark Tank called Dragon's Den in the UK. We paid him and we got him as a mentor. And now, I'm in various masterminds where you have to be doing minimum 10 million a year just to get in the door. And I'm
Yes.
always looking for new mentors and coaches.
Yes.
It's the skill set, yes, but it's also the mindset. So, linking back to your previous question where you asked about mindset, and I gave you an answer which was more about my vulnerabilities. But for me, the best mindset teacher ever is running a business. Because, okay, look, fighting is great. And obviously, if you have to deal with difficult situations and hardship, that's great. But you learn it, business teaches you everything. And like if you're in a relationship and it fails, you leave, they leave, you might not see them again and you find another person. If you fall out with a friend, you don't talk again, you just move on. And you can kind of go through life
Yeah.
having failed relationships, it doesn't really matter. But
Right.
you get into business and your relationships fail, you make no profit, you go bust. And then you can't start a company for 5 years.
Right.
So I learned to face conflict. I learned to shut my mouth. I learned when to open my mouth. I learned to negotiate. I learned to sell. I learned the concept of a brand. I learned to deal with legal cases. I learned to be able to have thousands of haters and not give a fuck. I learned all of this from actually running a business.
I'm going to rewind here. Having haters and not giving a fuck. That is so important that you just made that statement. And this is what I try to teach here in our coaching programs and trying to level up the mindset of men, that they get caught in this world where, some guys are just stepping into social media. They're putting their lives out there and they get, poison spit left and right from people that hate. How do you overcome? I know for me how I do it because we have thousands and thousands and thousands of haters that hate what we do because, they get triggered. I speak very direct, I'm to the point, and just very much like you. How do you overcome that sense of people, hating on you and then just kind of spitting poison your way? How do you handle that?
So a lot of people give very short answers to this, but I think there's a bit of context required. So I would say sometimes empathy, sometimes reality, sometimes challenge, and sometimes vision. So let's start with vision. My vision is to help as many people on the planet get better financial knowledge. You hate me, you're in my way. Get the fuck out of my way because I am on a mission. My mission is too important for me to care about your opinion of me. And let's say it gets through because look, I'm still the conflict avoiding, people pleasing, overweight, skinny guy. So sometimes if I respect you and you hate on me, that can hurt. Or if it comes in waves, it can hurt. Then all I do is go, yeah, but my mission is to help as many people on this planet get better financial knowledge. So don't get distracted. Now, one of my mentors, John DeMartini, he said, on your mission, you will collect followers, fans, lovers, and haters. You will collect them all. So vision always trumps having haters because the vision is always bigger than the haters. So vision number. You have a meaningful vision. Elon Musk doesn't give a shit. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit because they've got important work to do. Like only meaningless people or situations are when hate is given out. Because when you're doing really fucking important work, you ain't got time to hate on anyone else. So that would be the vision part, the challenge part. Like, imagine if everyone just loved what we did all the time. The ego would love it, but that wouldn't be a challenge. It would
Right.
be too easy. By the way, we probably would be careless, whereas we're more careful when we have haters. We'd probably take more risks. We'd probably say stupid shit. So I love the challenge of having haters because one, they keep me honest. Two, that I know they're all there if I slip up. And
Hmm.
also, I like the challenge of proving them wrong. There's nothing more satisfying than proving them wrong.
Amen.
So that would be the challenge part. Then I said empathy.
Hmm.
So sometimes I get really frustrated, and then I realize they may have like I've got a client in my community. He's been really active, brilliant client for the last few
Hmm.
years. And he's had to just cancel his membership to all of our communities because he's got about 4 weeks to live.
Hmm.
And one of my other clients is in our highest level mastermind. His son of 35 years, his 35-year-old son died last week.
Oh boy.
And I sometimes look at all the hate and I think, maybe your son died. Or maybe you're going through some shit. And when you show empathy for some of your haters, not all of them, some of them
Right. I
don't
hear you.
deserve it.
Yep. Yep.
But quite a lot of the time, you show some empathy. Actually, one, you turn them into fans, but two, they might be going through something. So that's the empathy part. And then reality. It's just a reality. People are people. They behave how they behave. If people are hurt people, and that's what they do. And haters hate, and that's just normal, and who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Love it. So, I ran through a couple of situations where I love cars. I love have, cars to me are they're one of my driving forces. I know that you love cars too. And, I recently I posted something about my Rolls Royce and, was talking about the stitching in the car and the quality and whatever. And I've never had so much hatred of people just, saying, hey, you're just doing it to show off or whatever it may be. And I'm speaking about the quality of the vehicle. The video was very, tamed down. It was specific about, living a life basically where you can go out there and experience quality, experience that next level. And people were just, spitting poison. And you're right. You're 100% right. Sometimes you got to deal with them, with reality. Sometimes you have to cross check them. Sometimes you have to have empathy and guide them in maybe in the right direction. So this is a very, very powerful answer that you gave us. And I hope that our listeners understand that you don't need to, go crazy if people are hating, because I believe that if you're doing something with meaning and with purpose, you're going to shake, rattle, and roll people. That's just the way of the world.
Amen. Now, here's the thing. If you have a shit car, people will hate on you. If you
Hmm.
have a Rolls Royce, people will hate on you. So have a fucking Rolls Royce.
Yeah. Very true. Very, very true.
They'll
All
hate
right.
on you anyway.
You're 100% right. And this is great to look. And this is I come from a place, I've coached probably somewhere in the neighborhood now of about 12,000 men. And I have traveled the world. I do speaking engagements. I connect with men at very high levels. We put them through very difficult times, through a lot of deep programs that are physical and mental. These are rites of passages, and so we push men to their limit, and hopefully that they can rise up and be better individuals. And one thing that I have found, and I'm going to let you know where I'm going to go with this here, is that, we talk about mindset. And there are those who are willing to make the sacrifices, who are willing to put in the time, who are willing to put in the effort. But what I notice, and I don't know if you come across this, especially you have large communities where you deal with people, man or woman, there's there's a few of those who have tremendous ambition and drive, and here I go, purpose. You mentioned purpose earlier, and that right there, that immediately lit everything up for me. Because a purpose driven individual, man or woman, in my book, is unstoppable. Nothing is stopping that individual. However, the question here is, how do you find purpose?
So another thing we're not taught in school, which is a crime against humanity, really is, imagine if your teacher sat you down and said, who are you and what are you meant to do with your life? When you're 15 and you're confused. And you go, well, I don't know, sir, because we call them sir in England. Um, and we call our prime minister sir. That's an irony. um, and then your teacher says, go away and think about it. And you go away and think about it. Who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? I like the drums. Oh, I like this subject, but I'm not sure. And you go back, and then the next day, your teacher says, who are you? And what you're supposed to do with your life? Because, we all have a purpose, and your purpose is to find your purpose. And we all have a space and a place, and I want to help you find yours. So have another think. Who are you? And what you're meant to do with your life? Like, why did no teacher ever ask me that when I was 15 and confused? Because being 15 is confusing. Why? Now, imagine if you're lost and today you ask yourself that question and then you get a little bit of data and then tomorrow you ask that question and then in a week or a month or a year, you find it because you always find it in the end if you keep asking. That it is as simple as that.